Hello, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday Talks. Now we have another episode with another amazing entrepreneur, beautiful soul, called Vanessa Gowara. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correct. As we know, Tuesday Talks is all about getting to know an individual from an industry, finding out what makes them tick, what do they care about, and how their career reflects that, and what motivates them to keep going. And that's what we're trying to find out now. Now, Vanessa was born with ADHD, and she didn't know about it until she was 23. She went on a personal journey to understand herself, lived in 4 countries, traveled to 10. Now she's inspiring people to reach for the stars and to never let anyone stop them from going to get their dreams. So we all want to know that how we can do this. We all are chasing our dreams. Let's invite Vanessa on, and let's see what she has to say. I see you there, Vanessa. Just give me a second. Hi,
Hi,
hi, Vanessa. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Thank you very much for taking the time out and joining me for Tuesday Talks.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
Now, I'm not sure if you heard the introduction or not. I did a little introduction for you, but you're the best person to expand on it. Let us know who you are, what you do. And also, the biggest question that everybody loves to know on our Tuesday Talks is, why do you do it, Vanessa?
Okay, that's a good question. My name is Vanessa. I was born in a small African country close to South Africa. And my whole life, I used to wonder who I was and, what was the point of life? What was my purpose? And, I never used to fit in school. So I was jumping from one school to the next. By the time I was in high school, I'd been to about 6, 7 schools. By the time I went to college, I had been to 11 schools, you know. And in high school and primary school, it was hard figuring who I was and what I wanted out of life because I was one of those kids that didn't fit into a mold. Like I was not the athletic kid, I was not the artsy kid, I was not the book smart kid. So it was a struggle trying to fit in because, whenever I tried doing something that didn't click with me, it didn't work out. I would fail at it. School was hard, sports were difficult, and art for me was literally a no-go. So, I graduated from high school, which was honestly like godsend because I didn't think I was going to graduate from high school. I thought I was going to be one of those kids that, left high school when I was 16. And, so I went to college and I went to a college in an Asian country and I was there for 2 years. And then when I went back home, I found out I had ADHD. And, things started to light up, my life changed. I started to understand who I was, and it was like I had that big aha moment. You know the eureka moment, when the guy throws the coin in the tub and then, and then he realizes, oh wait, So that was my eureka moment. Like everything that I'd been through had led me to that point where I was like, okay, this explains why I was bad in school. This explains why, I was one of those people who late bloomer. I know that people say that a lot, but I was a really late bloomer. So, it was one of those things where like, oh, hey, that makes sense why, I took so long to figure things out. And, it took me on a journey of figuring who I was, what I wanted out of life, and understanding, what was the next step for me to take. So that led me years later to write a book and to realize that, you know what, I can't fit the mold because I'd been trying for so long to fit the mold. 23 years of my life was trying to fit into a box. And then when I found out I had ADHD, I was like, okay, So that explains why I don't fit in the box. And then that took me on a journey of saying, okay, I don't fit in. Let me figure out what I should do with my life and where I should go. And, I fell in love with helping people find their passions because when I found my passion, my world changed. Everything changed. I became more productive. I became more energetic. It was one of those it's hard to describe, but I'm sure you also get the feeling like it's like you lived in, a tunnel your whole life, and then you see the light at the end of the tunnel. You're like, oh, hey, where does this light lead to? And then you go out of the tunnel, and then, it's like a wonderland.
Mm.
That was what happened for me. Like, and that's my passion, helping other people find their passion and their dream and realizing that they don't need to go the typical route of the 9 to 5 and because there's more to life than going down that path. So yeah,
Mm.
that's in a nutshell my life story.
Wow, that thank you very much. That's such an interesting story as well, like to obviously find out that the reason you're not fitting in, or
Yeah.
uh, you know after in 23 years time, at the 20 years later, you're like, oh, this is the reason, or maybe this is why I'm not able to do this.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're like, okay, let me see. So what I'm hearing here also is, then you say, okay, I realize I have ADHD. So how
Yeah.
can I now use this as my superpower, right? You turned it into your superpower.
Exactly.
Before that, you obviously you didn't know that you had the superpower. Like, okay, and your people are trying to just treat you as, a person, a ordinary person with no superpowers, right? And you're like, but
Yeah.
I've got superpowers, and you didn't know you had it. So you were, not trying to do stuff, but it wasn't working out because you just needed it to do a different way, right? You can do it,
Yeah.
but it was a different way of doing it. And I can
Exactly.
I can totally relate to that because I never fitted in into the education system. I love studying, I loved all these things, but I my brain totally works in a different way. So I look at things as moving pictures in my mind. It's very, visual. Uh, so if I'm reading, I can get lost into the reading, as in, because I will be literally creating that movie in my head of what I'm reading. So I can just go into it, and it was the same when I was in school. It would be people end up thinking that you're a daydreamer, but I was like, no, I'm immersed into it because I'm actually literally, when the teacher is sharing that story of whatever is in the book, I'm literally
Yeah.
playing it in my mind, in detail, and there was a time I used to be one of those kids that would love to know what's the story of the movie if you've seen it before me, because I want to then see, does it acts the same way as it was in my head. It's strange,
Yeah.
but that's hey, that's my superpower. So I can visualize everything, so and things like that. So you can be talking to me, and I can literally put that into perspective of a film in my mind, that how things been planning out, and how things it might have not happened that way, but in my
Yeah.
mind is very exciting. Even simply, you said it was a long journey for you to come down here, and you had to cross a bridge. That all will be played in as a movie in my head. But it's great to hear that. And when you realize that, and obviously you went on to a self discovery journey for yourself, and obviously you started reading more about other self development and things like that. What was that journey for you? Because we all go through that as a mindset challenge. I'm sure you had a few challenges, and how did you overcome them?
Oh wow, that's a good question. Um, the thing is, when I found out I had ADHD, I can't say that everything clicked. Like I automatically woke up and my life was great. No, there were certain things I had to change, and I would say that in a lot of ways my life became more difficult because I'd been walking in the shadow for so long that I didn't realize I was walking in a shadow until I found out, wait a minute, I'm walking, in like with shadows. But that's sort of like what happened with me. You know, there were certain things that I was oblivious to. Like I was oblivious to the fact that, my morning routine was a mess. So when I found out I had ADHD, there were certain things that were so hard for me. Like it was harder for me to fall asleep, it was harder for me to wake up. And it's strange to say this, but I already knew that, but now there was a reason for it. And now I was more aware of it. Like before, I was like, oh, that's just how life is. Now it was like, oh, wait, this explains it. So I had to sort of fix those things in order for me to, deal with them. So, like I'll give an example. My routine for sleeping was I would sleep at, like, on the holidays, like school holidays, I would sleep at 10 midnight, right? 12 midnight. And I would wake up at 5 a.m. And even with a normal working brain, that is not good for you. And for me, like normally before I found out I had ADHD, I would just lie in bed and, just stay like that for 2 hours. Then when I found out, it now felt like there was this weight on my body. Like everything was heavier, everything was more cumbersome, everything was harder. So I had to now change that and start sleeping early and waking up earlier, which wasn't easy because I had to put 5 or 6 alarms after one another because I would not wake up. Like I'm the type of the person where, well, I used to be. Like you'd be knocking on the door and I wouldn't hear you. Like my phone would be there and it would ring like 4 or 5 times and the other person in the other room would hear, but I wouldn't. Like I was stone cold hard person to wake up. So I had to be like, okay, like increments, like after every 10 minutes, the alarm would ring. So that was the first thing I had to change. The second thing was I was not, I was a person that was very hard on myself. Like everything was like, I'm like you in many ways. Like I am a visual person. So when something was hard, it'd be really difficult. Like, for example, if it's raining outside, I would visualize people crying in the rain, you know, or, like, or a wet dog, like, so I had to kind of change the way I looked at things around me. I had to be more grateful. I had to appreciate the small things in life. I had to, you know, wake up happier. Like, I would be like, oh, today's a great day, even if it was raining. That mind frame changed the way I looked at things and looked at myself. But also another thing I also started doing was I started appreciating myself with ADHD because I grew up, like my childhood was not the easiest. Not saying that, it was an abusive childhood, but it wasn't easy because I felt like I was stupid and I felt like I wasn't worth anything because there were things I couldn't do as a kid. Kids find value in what they do and in the groups of people they're around. But because I didn't do anything or I wasn't good at anything, I didn't feel like I had any worth. And because I didn't feel like I had any worth, my self-esteem was very, very low. So when I found out I had ADHD, I had to say, I love myself because my ADHD gives me this, which wasn't an easy thing because, I mean, if you know anything about ADHD, it's like you're living in like a noisy mine where there's a miner who's hamming on gold and then there's another miner who's trying to dig out silver and then there's another miner looking for copper. That's how an ADHD brain works. It's like basically you're in a mine. So, for me to find ways to appreciate myself despite my ADHD wasn't an easy journey. But once I started doing that, everything shifted because I no longer was trying to look for outside validation to find worth in who I was. I was no longer concerned what other people thought about me because I loved myself for who I was, And one of the things that I discovered in this journey was that I didn't love myself. And when I found out that, it was like, a landmine, like everything was just exploding because I'm like, oh, wow. All this time I thought I loved myself because, my thing is, you gotta love people, right? And I used to say I love people. And I remember someone saying to me once, how can you love people if you don't love yourself? And at that time I was like, oh, what are they talking about? I love myself. But then, after ADHD, I realized what I used to say about myself when I was talking to people showed that I didn't love myself. Because when you love yourself, you appreciate your flaws, you appreciate your mistakes, you appreciate the past, you appreciate everything that has led you to who you are now. Like if you made a big mistake or even a small mistake, it's not like the end of the world. You're like, oh, wow, I made a mistake, life moves on. How can I improve? How can I grow? So yeah, I mean, those are a few things that changed, my life in terms of my routine, my habits, and just personal development.
I love that as well. And in terms of the
Yeah,
last bit, when you shared as well, being appreciative, uh, in real for of yourself, even if you make a little
yeah,
mistake, you're like, yeah, that's all right, it's a little mistake, what can I learn from it, or what is this
yeah,
mistake now trying to teach me? A lot of time, even though, well, nobody thinks of these things anyway, in terms of, oh yeah, when people say, do you love yourself, and you just go, yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
and it's you're not really thinking of what does the actually means, do you love yourself, by that, as you suggested there, you're forgiving of your little mistakes, you're forgiving of your, maybe you wanted to do a lot of stuff today, but you can't do that today, so
yeah,
you're forgiving, you're letting yourself off the hook. You're like, oh, okay, if you're an exercise person, as they say, call it a cheat day, so today is a cheat day because that means you're having a pizza, whereas if you had a normal,
yeah,
you're at the diet, you're like, no, today I feel like I'm gonna have a pizza. Go and have a pizza, obviously, as long as
yeah,
it's just today, you know. So that's the thing. And what I'm also, I don't know a lot about ADHD, but I've heard from different people, and what I always every time hear is, it's a very very noisy place to be in, right? So as you said, yeah, there's a
yeah,
miner, mining for silver, mining for gold, mining for everything, right? So there's different. Well, so I'm thinking of this like you have minions doing all these little noises in your mind, and you're like, can I just get one person to talk to me first, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. One of the things with ADHD is you have a million thoughts running at the same time. Like I'll be thinking of, let's say, I'll be like, oh, I need to do this. And then before I know it, I'm thinking about what happened with Kanye and Kim Kardashian. It's so unrelated, but that's how my mind works. And then the next second, I'm like, oh wait, I left food in the fridge. I should go eat that. And then the next second, I'm like, oh wait, I didn't watch that movie. I wonder what happened at the end. So, that's exactly what it is. It's like you've got all these thoughts in running at the same time, and then before one thought can actually stay, another thought jumps in, and then another thought jumps in, and another thought jumps in. So sometimes it's difficult for you to stay on top of things or for you to remember certain things. So one thing I have to tell myself is, even if I forget an appointment, it's okay. There's always tomorrow. I just get better at it and get at it. It wasn't easy for me to get there, but I realized that, this is who I am. I can't control it. I can just work around it. I can't change myself. I just have to appreciate myself and say, okay, I got this wrong. I forgot this. What can I do tomorrow so that I don't? Yeah.
That's actually brilliant. In what you just said there, So is there also something that you've created that now supports that system of making, to maybe having all these noise that you have coming in, to then filter into maybe something which is important for the day. How do you manage this now to obviously make it better?
Oh, well, the best way I do it is I write. Like I wake up early in the morning and the first thing I do is I write. And the thing is, what one thing you hear from a lot of people who've got ADHD is we're very creative.
Mm.
So because we're very creative, we need an outlet. So my outlet is writing and music. So I'll write a story and I'll just go crazy with it because by doing that, I can manage my thoughts a lot better, get all the creative juices out so that through the day I don't have a million thoughts running through my head. And also, having the same routine helps, waking up early helps because for me, if I wake up, let's say late, like 6 a.m. is very late for me. Like it's
Oh,
really
wow.
late. I, my time that I wake up is 3 and 4 a.m. or sometimes 5. Those are good times for me. If I wake up at 6, I feel like a train ran over me.
Okay.
I feel terrible throughout the day. And that makes my ADHD a lot worse. So
Mm.
I have to wake up early. If I'm being honest, the best times for me when my ADHD is at the highest is when it's 2 a.m. because I'm more productive, my day goes well, I do more, I have less ADHD symptoms. Now, if I go to 5 a.m., I tend to have more ADHD symptoms. If I go to 6, oh wow, my day is like, yeah, it's a disaster. Yeah, it's a
Oh.
disaster. So, yeah, so I mean, for me, my time is very important. Like waking up early is important because my brain,
Mm.
is more like it's more clear. Because another thing with ADHD is we tend to get brain fog a lot. Now, brain fog, if it's the first time you're hearing it, it's sort of like you're walking through, think 19th century England where there's just
Okay.
fog, right? That's how brain fog. Like I'm trying to even help you visualize it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
I literally had that visualized already. Like,
right?
okay.
Yeah, so that's sort of like how it is. So, for me, what makes it better is waking up earlier and writing. Like if I miss my routine, it's harder because there's like one of the things I did when I found out I had ADHD. I would watch ADHD videos. So one of the people I would watch was this woman called her YouTube channel is How to ADHD. So she talks about the difference between people with ADHD and people who don't. So she calls the people with ADHD brains and the people without ADHD hearts. So, I don't like the thing about brains because it just makes me think of wires, but anyway, that's a lingo. So, for me, a lot of the times when I have a bad ADHD day, I get into a lot of, let's say, misunderstandings with people because I'm thinking one thing and they thinking another thing.
Hmm.
They thinking, oh wait, I want, can you give me water? I'm thinking, oh, they want water. It's a flask. Let me put hot water. And I'm not even thinking that, oh wait, they're just talking about normal temperature water. My brain is going 1,000 miles. So yeah.
Hmm. Well, that's quite interesting. That and it's good to know also a little bit more into the ADHD side of things, and how are you uh, using it to better yourself and going forward with it. And it's interesting to see your routine, being waking up early and obviously, yeah, writing stuff down is also helping. So that's quite interesting as well. So I know also you're helping all the other people achieve their dreams and also doing so many things. So yeah,
Yeah.
take us through that journey as well. I know you mentioned a book as well there earlier. So take us through what you're doing now and what you've done.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so basically I help people, build, their dream life with they starting with their dream business. So this started in 2017 when I was trying to still figure things out, when I was trying to figure out whether I wanted to do a 9 to 5, what kind of 9 to 5 I wanted to do, when I was watching videos about entrepreneurship, like I went down the rabbit hole. So, one of the things that came to mind then was like, oh, you know what, I should write a book. And it seems so strange to say it because at that time I didn't really understand exactly where I was going. But one thing I wanted to do was talk about my journey with how I went from being a person who was a negative Nancy and always, like I was borderline depressed for years. I didn't even know I was. But yeah, going from that person to a person who was vibrant with energy and full of life and vigor. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna write a book. And for me at that time, like I started writing books when I was 13. So writing novels was not like it wasn't a thing that was like a huge leap.
Mm.
But I'd never written a nonfiction book, which was a very different thing. So I had to then realize, okay, how do I write a nonfiction book? And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start writing. So I started writing, and in the process of writing, I was like, wait a minute, I can actually help people start a business that they love. So I published the book. I mean, a few people, bought it and read it and they liked it. And the next year, that's when I started my business. And, it was at the point in time when I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. It's all or nothing because, one of my favorite lines is from this movie. It's a 2009 movie. It's basically, I mean, okay, people can describe it as corny and cheesy, but I still love the movie. you know, it says, you gotta risk it to get the biscuit. you know, And basically that explains a lot, like without risk, there are no rewards, you know. And you gotta risk, like sometimes we're afraid to take that leap because we're like, what if we fail? Or what if people, reject our idea? What if no one likes us? What
Mm.
what if people mock us? What if people ridicule us? What if people say, does that person think they are? And those are the things that were running through my mind. But at that time I was like, you know what? I will never know if I don't try. I'll never
Mm.
know if I don't go for this. And that was the scariest moment. Like when I took out my credit card and I was looking at Bluehost's page and I was like, okay, well, I've got it now. Like I can't leave it. Like this is happening. So, that was the start of this beautiful, miraculous journey that I went on. Because a few months later in 2019, that was when I got my first client. And it's strange how that happens because I didn't think that was going to happen. My thing was just like, I'm just going to design this thing. I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to work on my website designing skills. And let me tell you one thing about having your own business. There's so many skills you learn that you never thought you would ever learn. Like now, like there's so many things I can do that if you asked me 10 years ago if I would be able to do them, I would have told you no. But it's like I've got this thing like it's called the zipline method. Have you ever been on a zipline?
I've not been on a zip line. That's it's on my list to go. Yes.
So I went on a zipline recently, and by the way, I am terrified of heights. Like I've got serious phobia when it comes to heights. Like I think death, gloom, branches poking me, like hitting the ground. Anyway,
Oh
I
wow.
won't go into the
Yeah.
gory, but my mind goes there. But I went with a friend and I went on the bridge and it was too late for me to back out. I was like, ah, there are people behind me. It's too scary for me to even back out. So I was like, okay, fine, I'm gonna do it. So I went on a zip line and it was the most exhilarating and terrifying thing I've ever done and will ever do. Because the whole time I was screaming for my dear life, thinking I was gonna die. But afterwards, I was like, wait a minute, that wasn't so bad. So I call it the zipline method. Like sometimes our fear is only as big as we think it is. But that's
Mm.
what it is. We imagine, like that if we do something, people will ridicule us, people will mock us, we'll fail so miserably that even a newspaper will report us. But chances are those things will never happen, like not in a million years. And the things I've done that I never thought I would do because I was afraid of it. Like I went on stage and I performed a song when I was in college and I had stage fright. But after I
Mm.
did it, my stage fright went out of the window because I was imagining people screaming at me, babies crying, people laughing and mocking me, choking me, like I said, I'm a very, very visual person.
Yeah.
But after I did it, instead of that, people stood up and clapped. But I never
Mm.
thought that because for so long, I was so afraid of doing something that I never did it. And when I did it, I then realized, like, wait a minute, why was I so afraid of this? And I think that's the thing that is so important for people to realize. Fear are basically fake events appearing real. So I
Mm.
walk people through the process of, listen, your fear is basically just masking what you can achieve. So if you are constantly worried about what if this happens, what if that happens, what if that happens, you're never going to do it and you're going to regret it. There's so many things I regret. Like I regret never riding a bike because at 8 years old I thought that maybe my bones would break. And up to this day I still can't ride a bike. And I'm like, wait a minute, I wish I got on that bike even when I fell. So, you know, life happens, right? Failure happens. It's a natural part of life. But when you do it and when you achieve it, you're like, wait a minute, I was afraid for nothing. Like, as terrifying
Mm.
as that zip line was, I'm glad I did it because afterwards I was like, wait a minute, I didn't die. I wasn't eaten by lions or cheaters or, I wasn't, taken to a hospital, or I wasn't even in a coma. No, I survived. But my fear was bigger than I imagined it to be. And, that stopped me from doing something that could have been great. But yeah, that's basically my thing. Like I just help people say, listen, you might be afraid of starting that business. You might be afraid of writing that book. You might be afraid of starting that side hustle. But when you do it, there's so many things that'll come out of it that you could never possibly imagine.
Mm.
Like my business led me to live in different countries. It led me to speak different languages. It, led me to be on a podcast. And by the way, I'm an introvert. But you wouldn't think I was an introvert because I'm doing
No,
all this, right?
yeah.
Exactly. But that's the thing though. Like I've gotten so much worth and value from doing these things that I never would have even imagined. But yeah, so I mean, that's in a nutshell. Like I did divert a bit, try and just inspire your audience a little. But yeah, I mean, I just help people start businesses from what they love and, whatever stage they're at. Some people don't have an idea of what they want to do. Some people have an idea but don't know how to do it. And some people are like stuck in the middle of like, okay, I know what I want to do, but I don't know how to make money from it. So I just walk people through that. And usually, how I do that is through my books. My books are mostly inspirational and self-help, but with a bit of business inside because I try to not make it too boring and too technology, filled with jargon and terminology. They're a bit easy, to read. And then I've got the coaching services, and then I'm now working on doing mini kits and courses so that I walk people from A to Z. Yeah.
I love that as actually, and you and thank you for sharing the whole journey as well.
Yeah.
And I love the acronym that you used for fear. Fake events appearing real, which is amazing. Because and because that's what fear is, right? Fear is a
Yeah.
mechanism designed to protect you. It just enhances what's never going to happen
Yeah.
into, oh, it might happen. Yeah, it might happen. Who knows? Obviously, if it's a life and death situation, then maybe. But if it's a situation where you need to just go out of your comfort zone so that you can grow and do the thing that can help you in your life and grow.
That's true.
That's when yeah, that I love that, and I think somebody just put in the comment as well. Face everything and rise as well.
Oh
So
wow. I
you
love
know
that.
so that's another one. I love that as well. So
Yeah.
when you feel fear, think of that as face everything and rise. Yeah, again, I have to enhance
Yeah.
that. If it's a life and death situation, obviously think twice. But if it's a zip line, bungee jumping, these things are taking you out of your comfort zone to grow, and that unlocks how I see these things are as well. That let's say I used to be a very avid gamer, right? So it's basically unlocking a new skill, unlocking
Yeah.
a new way of doing things, right? So you're leveling up with that stuff. You've unlocked a new door that you can now go in and out of by doing these things, which takes you out of your comfort zone. And that's what it is. If you feel
Mm.
fear of what you're doing, by the way, I myself was a very very introvert, but you would never know it.
Oh.
you,
Yeah.
you would never know it. If people meet me now, or they're like, you're introvert? No, but I have my
Yeah.
quiet moments as well. So I found the balance of doing these things, right? So it's a case of, right, doing those things,
Yeah.
unlocking my new skills, unlocking the way I can work. And I love everything to be automated. So I also like to see if I can use the system to work for me rather than me working for the
Mm.
system. I love that you're helping everybody, get that, if they're not happy with their 9 to 5, there's nothing wrong with their 9 to 5. Some people are doing amazing in it. But yeah, if
Yeah.
not, if there are people thinking, yeah, there's more to life than just 9 to 5. I should have my own business so that I can be with my family, so I can enjoy life and all this stuff, right? You can help them with that if they're
Yeah.
thinking of an idea. If they don't know, if they have an idea and they don't know where to start, you can help with that as well. And there are lots of people out there who want to do these things and they don't know how to start, or they have an idea, they don't know where to go and how to do things. It's amazing. And And for myself, in terms of that, it's automation, because I've crossed the bridge. I've done so many things that have taken me out of my comfort zone. So I've learned so many new skills. But then I was like, as you said, being an entrepreneur, you have to learn and do so many things. And I was like, wow, I know all these things. How can I now get this system to actually work for me, rather than me trying to just keep, spinning all these plates up, right? And try to juggle
Yeah,
all these balls and balance all the balloons so that they don't fall. It's automation. Automation is the way forward. A lot of my stuff
that's true.
is automated. Obviously there is some manual work that is needed, because you have to be there, or you need to keep an eye on. But those are also prompted. It's automated, so I don't have to remember all this stuff, right? I'm like, oh, and that's where you get the burnout from. So I've also
Yeah,
now managed how to not get burnout, right? So burnout only happens if you're too much into your work, thinking too much about it. I just take the day as it comes. Obviously, I have everything scheduled. I live by schedule. Everything I schedule is gets done, even to my daily routine, my breaks. Everything is scheduled, even to this call today. So everything gets scheduled, but everything else gets automated as well. So I'll get prompts. Okay, oh, don't there's a post going out. Just double check it. So I'll just check it. Yep, post is good to go out. Oh, maybe I need to post on a story, but I will get a prompt to do that. So I'm not thinking, oh, I need to post a story on a Monday. I need to post a story on a Tuesday. I'm not thinking of any of these things. I'll have a little prompt at a certain time of the day where I know I am usually free, and then I can register it, and then I will just post it whenever I can do it, because that's the manual part. Stories, unfortunately, you can automate at the moment, but once that is available, I'm
yeah,
the first one to jump on that ship. But
yeah.
I love that you're doing all this for everybody. So if people wanted to get in touch with you, how can they reach out to you?
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, so my website is vanessagora.com. You can also reach me on Instagram as well. Like, usually I give like a free 15-minute consultation as well. So if anyone's interested, they can just send me a DM and we can, go on a call and I can find where you are. But also in a few weeks or so, I'm also releasing my course on how to help people go from A to Z and, starting a side hustle and making money from it. So yeah.
Wow, I'm sure that will be an amazing course too, because in
Yeah.
current times we all need that side hustle to just top up whatever's not coming in now, right? We need that.
Yeah.
And just to point out, because today is 4th of October 2022, just that reason. So when this episode turns into a podcast a few months down the line, we know when this episode was actually recorded, and then if they are correlating it. But I'm sure your course will be still running when this becomes a podcast episode,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
they can still reach out to you by your website and Instagram. Are you on Facebook as well, or Facebook
Yeah,
page
I'm
or
also on
anything?
Facebook. Yeah. On Facebook it is Vanessa, just type in Vanessa Gowara. You will come in. Like I have two names, so if you see another name in the middle, then you know that's me.
No,
So
wonderful. That's great. Um, in regards to, obviously, you've I've heard your amazing story, from managing the situation that you found out that you never knew you had, and you're like, oh, okay, makes sense now to where you are now, and you're helping others, and writing books, so forth. um what routines that you would like to share with anybody here now that you think are actually good, whether you have ADHD or not, will actually help any entrepreneur who's thinking to become an entrepreneur or is already
yeah.
entrepreneur to balance their day?
Okay, so this one might get a lot of night owls in a frenzy, but waking up early,
That's me
waking up
though.
early at, right, yeah. I mean, I know a lot of people say that, oh, I'm a night owl, but the reality is waking up early does make your day a lot longer because it's very quiet, so there's less distractions. So if you wake up at 5 a.m., okay, I'm not expecting anyone to wake up at 2 a.m. because, that's just me. But if you can wake up at 5 a.m., you can do a lot from 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. when everyone is,
Hmm.
you know, maybe tired or in a funk or you get distracted. Because if you notice, that's usually the time when people phone you or when they message you, because they're already tired. So you would have gotten a head start if you actually wake up earlier. Another thing I would say is having like eating healthy. Obviously, this is a thing that's good for everyone. Having a lot of salads. I'm not a person who, well, I never used to love salad, but I feel like salad is a really good balance because not only is it nutritious, but it isn't as boring as vegetables. I consider vegetables quite boring. That's how I look. Yeah, and also I would say that there's something I learned when I was studying for my A levels. It's basically when you break everything down in 25 increments. Like you work 25 minutes and then you take a break for maybe 5 to 10 minutes and then then you work again for 25 increments and then you keep doing that throughout the day. It helps pace yourself and you get a lot done because if you say to yourself, okay, in 25 minutes I need to have gotten done A, B, C, D, you're going to be more productive than if you give yourself 2 hours, you know. Like it's just a natural, I mean, there's a law to it. I forgot the name. I think it's the Pareto principle that time expands according to what you allocate to it. So if you say like you're working on maybe writing a book and you give yourself 2 hours, that book might take you 2 hours or longer. But if you say that I'm going to, outline the book for 25 minutes and then write the first chapter for 25 minutes, you would have actually achieved more than trying to expand the time. Like a shorter time frame works better than a longer time frame. That's
Inter-
basically
that
how
that's
it
quite
works.
that's quite interesting, and I can actually resonate with this. Recently, because I started experimenting this as well. Because even though I say I'm a night owl, I do wake up early. Because I
Yeah.
do have a job as well that I have to turn up to. So yeah, you have to wake up early for that. And there was a time I used to wake up at 5 a.m. a lot as well. So that's it. Just depends on how you want to work. You just get adjusted to it. Yeah, in the beginning it's a little bit challenging because you're changing the whole dynamic and the system of it, and your body's like, hey, hang on a minute, we were sleeping here this time of the night yesterday.
Yeah.
What's happened? Is the house on fire or what's happening, right? So they're like thinking that. um but apart, what I've noticed is I'm doing these three courses, but then I was like, three courses, I don't have enough time to do this. But what I did
Mhm.
was the last week I gave them each just about 25 to 30 minutes each. And it is surprisingly, in that 25-30 minutes for each course, I end up doing a lot more than I was trying to do for the last past 2 months. Right? So
Yeah.
like, oh, I got a lot more notes in my book here for these three courses, and I've actually implemented one of them already. I went out and implemented one of them already because it was stuck in my mind because it was a short time. Not, I didn't end up
Yeah.
being tired at the end of the day because I spent 2 hours on one subject, and then I was like, okay, I'm not going to do the others, right? And leave because I gave them 25-30 minutes. It was done, and then I was like, okay, let me just check the next one. 25-30 minutes on that. There were about a few episodes that I ended up watching and make lots of notes. And then third one was they had some actions to do for me, so I had to implement some actions, and luckily they were in my mind still. And when I was about, I'm like, oh, I need to do these things, let me just open this book and let's do it. Any other time it would have been, yeah, I forgot what was it. Because I've been spending so much time, and your brain's like, do you really want to do this again? But because it's
Yeah.
short bursts, your brain never got bored from it, right? So you're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, you're remembering it, you can go back to it, that's quite good. It's a recent thing. I tell everybody that I speak to is, you need to experiment what works for you and what doesn't work for you, and you can only know that by doing different things, trial and errors.
Yeah.
um, some people might be happy to spend an hour to do something. Some people, no, I just need 20 minutes. uh, 30 minutes, so maybe 10 minutes. If you need a timer, put a timer on your watch or on a phone, something like that. So that prompts you that so you don't go, in a rabbit hole after doing this. So when the timer goes off, switch off, start doing something else. I usually take a little walk or look up at the sky and then come back and do something else now, right?
Yeah.
So that disconnect and then come back. It's actually very. I love that you shared, and it just reminded me of, hang on, it's just I've been just doing that for the last week, well, and it's actually helped, and I'm thinking of
Yeah.
continuing it now. So that's a very good one. What else would you, is there any books that you're reading as well? And obviously, recommend your book for people. What's the book called?
Okay, so I've got two books. The one I would recommend is Flipping It Sideways. It's a philosophy on how to help people look at life differently through a different lens than what they used to. Another book I would recommend is Steal Like an Artist.
Ah,
It's a book about how entrepreneurs can actually get the idea out of the world and not be afraid that the idea is not original. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a writer, or anything that's into the a different sphere from what's usual, right? So I would recommend those two books. Another thing that I would recommend as a good routine for people to have is you need a hobby. I know it's strange to say, but I'm a big advocate of having a hobby in your life. Like, it doesn't matter what it is, guitar, pottery class, dancing. You need something that can give you a natural boost in your dopamine levels.
mm,
Now, what happens when you have that? Like when you're doing a hobby, it basically helps light all areas of your brain. Like, if you did a brain scan of a person who does hobbies and a brain scan of the person who doesn't, you notice the person who does hobbies, their brain is a lot brighter. Like, the synapses are firing a lot faster and quicker. But also, hobbies help you look at things differently. They also help you come up with solutions a lot quicker. So when you have a hobby, it doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter what it is. It's just
mm.
something that can help you also relax, detox, help you think, help you, change your perspective in certain areas. So yeah, your hobby could simply be walking to the beach or, maybe journaling or bird watching. Like, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
seriously.
There's so many things out there that you can be, walking especially. It helps your physical health as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, that as you when you mentioned walking, and I was like, yeah, that could be a hobby because if you're thinking of setting aside certain times that you just want to go out and walk, it's great, right?
Yeah, it is great. And I mean, there's so many, studies that show that hobbies are great for entrepreneurs. Like, we're so focused on making money that
Mm,
we don't realize we also need to focus on our well-being and our health. And how you can do that is by having something that stops you from stressing. And like I said, there are a lot of studies that you can literally go and look at all the studies that show the natural benefits from hobbies, and there's so many. So yeah, I mean that's the one thing I would definitely recommend because hobbies for me, they've also definitely helped with my ADHD. So yeah.
oh, wonderful. So what's your hobby, if you don't mind sharing, that keeps you grounded?
Okay, so I've got three hobbies. Like I write fiction books. I know people like, how's that a hobby? But it helps me. My other two hobbies is I play the guitar and the piano.
Ah,
So
interesting.
that helps me not focus on too many things, and it's the one thing that actually stops my brain from thinking. Like, I know it's
Mm,
strange. Like, my brain thinks I would say 88 to 98% of the day. And the only thing that stops it from actually thinking about anything is playing a musical instrument. Like, even when I'm watching a movie, I'll be thinking about, oh, I understand why this person did this and this and this. And they're talking about a story that isn't even the movie, and my brain is thinking about what happened. So my brain is very active. So, but
it's
yeah,
creating a whole new story out of another story.
it's getting a whole new. That's the thing. So it doesn't stop. Like, even when I try to go to bed, it just keeps thinking. And yeah, so but yeah, that's my hobby. But yours doesn't have to be like, I know some people like music instruments are a little difficult to do. So yours could be like I said, it can be literally any single thing you can think of.
Well, exactly. I mean, I'm quite musical myself, so I've got a guitar as well, and a
Oh,
keyboard and all that stuff. But
nice.
it means it's the creative side of us, right? So and
Yeah,
everybody else, you don't have to pick up music as we're saying. You know, you can pick up walking, for example, because that you can go out for walking. You can do swimming. If if
exactly.
there is go swimming, go walking, because all these things don't require you to actually think about anything a lot, right? And you become part of a flow. And when you're part of the flow,
Yeah.
your brain, uh, starts to relax itself. It stops. I mean, not literally stopping, but it stops, and what it does is it starts compartmentalizing things. So you'll start maybe it'll stop thinking of what could happen, and it'll start thinking of, right, oh, how was your day going? Or for some people, you might think, okay, how was their day going, and how
Mm.
up to now. And if they're walking, they can catch up onto whatever they were thinking of, right? Because a lot of time when I'm walking, because I usually walk about 2 to 3 miles a day, and on a day where I have nothing, I do up to 5 miles because that takes a little bit longer. So
Yeah.
I do that walking. But what happens is I have my headphones on. It's either a book I'm listening to or listening to my music, uh, and that's it, and
Mm.
nothing else. It's just walk. But by the time I come back from a walk, my mind is refreshed. I have lots of new ideas that I want to just pen down on. It could be business related, it could be hobby related, it could be something to do with my car, anything, right? So it could be lots of things that I want to now continue, or I've just found a new holiday place that I just thought of, right? Or taken an inspiration
Yeah.
from a book that I was listening to. So it's there out there. So people have to, again, you would only know that you have to try quite different things, right? So
Yeah.
have a go at music. You might enjoy it because there's lots of apps now that teach you how to play instruments, so you don't even need to go out there and look for a teacher nowadays. So you just get the app, and it's there. YouTube helps you now. So
That's true.
get into the things that you would love to enjoy. You will only know that by doing at it, right? And definitely need a hobby to get yourself in a flow state. And I mean, a lot of people say, de-stress and zone out
Yeah.
and things like that. Whatever the lingo you want to use, obviously, whatever works for you. For me, it's just being in flow, and you're just doing and this is funny. I'll say I actually love driving. So my hobby is actually driving as well. So
Oh, okay.
a lot of times I drive when I want to de-stress. So, or I want to, if the day is too much, I just get in my car and I just
Mm.
go for a drive. I know the locations where I'm driving because I know there will be less traffic here and there. Or even if I'm in traffic, that's fine because I can entertain myself by reading number plates, which try to see if they make up a word or not. So and doing all this stuff but what I'm doing is there again is to de-stress my brain and take everything out of what it was thinking all day, and just ground yourself on what it is, and by the time you finish, you will feel refreshed, and if you're not
Hmm.
feeling, maybe you need to change the hobby then.
And another thing as well that I'd like to add, like if you want to be more creative, pick a hobby
Definitely.
because people who are extremely creative have several hobbies, and there's a reason for that. Because
Mm,
hobbies, like they help the other side of the brain function, you know. But also beside that, like it's like you've got on a simultaneously two parts of the brain functioning, the left and the right.
mhm.
So when you have that, you've got something incredible that happens because you can now, like you said, get into flow state, get into creative state. You start thinking things that you never thought of. You could come up with that big idea that you never thought you'd come up with when you've got a hobby.
Yes, I love that. And we should be wrapping this up as well now
Yeah.
that is coming to an end. And I'd love to say thank you very much for sharing your amazing journey and sharing a light on ADHD as well. It's a subject I'm not a lot aware of. I'm sure the audience may know or may not know as well. but obviously it was insightful for everybody to find out all this. And I would recommend everybody to get in touch with you if you're thinking of a business, or you want to get into the want to launch yourself with something and you don't know how to and all that stuff. You're the best person to reach out to. You're doing amazing
Yeah.
things for everybody there, and definitely everybody to keep an eye out for your course that's coming. So if you're not following, definitely go and follow yourself on Instagram. So I'm sure you'll be talking about it once it's launched. Before we
Yeah,
wrap up,
definitely.
what would you like to leave the audience with as a to close this conversation with?
One thing I always say that all courage needs is for you to walk out your front door.
That is
So,
amazing. That is amazing.
yeah,
All courage needs is you to walk out of the front door. And I love that. I might even choose this title as the name of the episode when it goes into podcast. I love this actually. That's good.
yeah,
Thank you very much.
no
Uh,
problem.
Thank you very much, everybody who's been watching this episode live on Instagram today and listening to this as a podcast as well. If you had a sparking moment, if you had a spark or you had an aha moment, you're like, oh, I could do this. I don't know about this, but great, I will try this now. If you had that spark, basically, it's our duty now to actually share this episode with whomever that's also popped up in your mind and you think should benefit with this, because if you had a spark, they will also have a spark, and that's all we need. We just need is to create that spark. So we need to share this episode with whomever you think should be watching this, because we don't know who's gone to bed or woke up thinking of a better day, and this episode has created a spark, and you might create a spark in that. And as we said, and I also say as well, the spark is the only thing you need to start your engines and to start that creativity or start that business for you. And a spark is also needed for you to walk out of that door to do that, right? So, and if we have that created already, so we should create this. Vanessa, thank you very much for coming on to the episode, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I'm glad I was part of it.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
All right, bye bye.